Okay, everybody, 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins here. I've got meteorologist Natalie Ferrari right next to me as well, too. And guess what we're doing today? We're tracking another storm. This, what's this, the 14th named storm, right? 7, yeah. Right. 14th named storm. It's Nicole. It's Subtropical Storm Nicole. It's got an upper level low above it, and the winds are actually, the higher winds are outside of it right now. That will change, and we think it'll look a little bit more like a regular tropical system over the next 24 hours or so. And so that forecast is for it to become tropical in nature. And what that means is that we'll see a little bit more strengthening, especially the higher winds right along the center. So this is going to be a little bit, I don't want to say a hybrid storm, but we're definitely going to see some changes here where we're going to end up getting a lot of wind. You see where the arrows are where I have put this on here now. A lot of wind up in this area here. We already have this wind blowing onshore in East Florida here, the east coast of Florida. That's building water up. This will strengthen and come in this direction, and that's just going to pour more wind, which pushes more water up against that coast. So that's the surge issue for the eastern part of the state. Now, for Tampa here, it's not a huge concern, but it is something that I think we're going to have to deal with. All right, so here's the latest track. You can see by tomorrow morning, well, look, 45-mile-per-hour winds now. Tomorrow morning, 45-mile-per-hour winds, but you see that it indicates that they think it's tropical by that time. And that's important because then it'll start to strengthen through the day. Tuesday, and I think Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, you see now it's up to 65-mile-per-hour winds, all right? Wednesday, we're up to 70-mile-per-hour winds. That's Wednesday night. So the strengthening is tomorrow night through the day Wednesday into Wednesday night, and then they have it as a Cat 1 with landfall near Jupiter. Something like that as we get towards Wednesday night, Thursday morning. All right, then it comes across towards us and it weakens. 45-mile-per-hour winds near the center over us by Thursday evening, and then by Friday evening, it's all the way up into Georgia, and things will be clearing out. All right, so that's the latest track. Just came out about 4 o'clock this afternoon. Watches and warnings. If you've been watching 10 Tampa Bay, you notice we had the crawl going up during Dr. Phil. We now have tropical storm watches for Polk, Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands County. We have a hurricane watch for the east coast of Florida from basically the Cape all the way down to Miami. South of Miami is a tropical storm watch. The Bahamas basically have now hurricane warnings in effect. Again, minimal hurricane, but still, we got to watch that. I mean, you're going to have 75, 80-mile-per-hour winds there possible in the Bahamas. I think it'll be a little bit less here, but not by much. Whoever gets it, if it makes landfall here in Jupiter, the highest winds will be just to the north of the center. All right, you can zoom in there. You can see where we've got Polk, Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands County now. Now, look, even by 11 o'clock tonight, these might get shifted further to include these counties. It's all a matter of time. Because what a watch means is that we expect tropical storm force winds to be possible, because it's a watch, within the next 48 hours. If it was a warning, like we have out here in the Bahamas, that means we expect hurricane force winds there within the next 48 hours. So if we're going to get tropical storm force winds coming across, which it looks like we could, 39 miles per hour and higher is tropical storm until you get to 74, and that becomes a hurricane. It's forecast to be around 45-mile-per-hour winds over top of Tampa. So that would give us tropical storm watches. They may get issued as early as tonight at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock actually. So Natalie will cover that for you, okay? Now, here are the tracks. Now, there's been a little change today to come a little bit further to the north. These tracks here, the pink ones, have come from up here. They've come south. These tracks were further south. They've come north. So there's actually a little bit better agreement, and there's more of an agreement that it turns pretty close to the coast and comes back up. The GFS was way out here earlier and trying to come back up, which would affect us a little bit more. Now, then it goes pretty much across the southeast, basically west of I-95, or maybe right over I-95. Okay, so that's Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, moving up the coast. Now, this is another look at those models, and what I've done here, this bright red line here, I know this is tough to see, but that one there is the Hurricane Center forecast. I don't show that center line very often because the cone is showing you where we think that we're going to have the best chance for any kind of part of the center to go into it, not the weather, right? The cone is using air. This is the actual line, and the reason why I'm showing it to you now is because I wanted to show you where all the other models are. The spaghetti plots are underneath that. And that's actually a pretty good agreement with this 4 o'clock update this afternoon. They are coming closer to the coast. This is good news. We don't want it to get out here. If it does, it could strengthen up a little bit, and we'd have more southwesterly winds, I should say, Thursday night, pushing some water up against us. So as it is now, we'll get some water, but not a lot. I'm not looking at a major issue for us here. Here are the forecast models between the comparison between the GFS and the Euro. I'm going to have to go quick because we got a show coming up here. The X's that you see here are the previous runs. So you see the yellow center is right here. If I were to replot this, I'd put the X, the yellow X right there. See the white X, that's the GFS. It's actually over here now. So that's a pretty good shift in the GFS, and then more importantly, it's actually along this line where the hurricane center is, and it's in pretty good agreement with the European model. So we're starting to see the models get better agreement here. Fantastic news. Now, here it says we get into 4 o'clock on Thursday, somewhere over top of us. All right, worst weather is going to be the north side of this. The worst weather will be coming through at that time. Thursday night, things are quieting down. This is Friday morning at 6:30. European thinks the center's in Georgia. GFS thinks it's up by Citrus County, but it's falling apart, obviously it's weaker. And then you can see it does continue to move up quickly. So the latest runs are a lot faster. GFS, the old run, had it way down here, thinks it's up there, and geez, European's way up here. So that time is going to change a little bit. All right, now this model is the local model. It's the graph model, IBM graph, and we use this every day at the television station to show you where those afternoon showers and storms are going to pop up. This model did a really good job with Ian. It spotted that turn for Ian 2 days before most of this was even being called for by the hurricanes. And remember, the day before Ian, it was all switching. This had that 2 days before that. So I'm kind of leaning on this one a little bit. This one does not dip it as far to the south. See, I got the center down here. It's actually up here. This is Wednesday at 6 o'clock. This is actually a little bit faster too. Now watch what happens. There you go. Did you see that? Look, I'm going to back it up right here. Landfall somewhere near Cape Canaveral on early Thursday morning. This is late Wednesday night, Thursday morning. That means all of our weather would go downhill Wednesday night as well, but the worst weather would stay to our north and east. All right, this is Thursday afternoon at about 1 o'clock. Our wind's starting to come on shore there. We could get a small surge just because of it, but I'm not looking for a lot. But you see the center's way up here. All right, so this is different than what even the Hurricane Center says. So I actually kind of laid the models on here too. You can see, look, this thing came in up here. It's more like this pink line you see here. You see that? That's very similar to what that forecast model is saying, the northern line. The further north this goes, the less effects we'll have here in the Tampa area because the north side of the storm, which is up here, wherever it goes, is going to have basically the strongest weather. Now, this is the same model. This is the look at winds. Okay, notice the numbers for Tampa as we go through Wednesday afternoon. Breezy today, it'll be certainly breezy tomorrow and Wednesday. Sustained winds in the teens, even some 20s, gusts in the upper 20s to near 30. Now, this is Wednesday night. Let's go out. There we go. Well, I'm going to back it up here at landfall. Obviously, landfall right there, right? We've got winds in the 20s, generally out of the north. Gusts will be in the 30s, perhaps some gusts in the 40s. Polk County, add 10 to 15 to all those numbers, right? Because you're just closer to the center. Then we go into Thursday morning, 9 o'clock. It's got up here towards Gainesville. Bottom line, you get the idea. The timing may change a little bit. I prefer that model, right? For the Tampa area, I'd prefer to see the graph do better, just because it would take most of the stronger weather up to the north. This is not a terrible storm. This is not an Ian. This is not a storm surge issue for Tampa Bay. However, what you see here, this 2 to 3 foot Thursday night, if this thing is sitting in here, we've got winds now coming like that. Now, they're not going to be that strong, but there'll be, 20, 25, maybe even 30 mile per hour winds. That'll blow some water up against the coast. So I'd say 2 to 3, and that's probably going to be up in this area up in here, Hernando and Citrus County, right? That's the best chance to see that. But we'll have to watch that, and again, that'll be on the backside. Rainfall, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. This is not a big rainmaker. The system's small as far as where the rain is, but the wind field is large, and so even if the storm were to go something like this, when it's sitting in here, there's a lot of wind. I mean, it's already blowing wind in here, but it's going to keep blowing wind in here, keep blowing wind in that coast. So from Morehead City all the way down to almost Miami is going to get a lot of water. Right, they're going to get a lot of surge there. Now, let's talk timing. So these are the chances for tropical storm force winds and when we can expect it. Right now, it's about a 45% chance or so for Tampa and Fort Myers, right? The onset of those winds would be around 8 in the morning. It would be before sunrise, I think. In Tampa, it would be late Wednesday night, around midnight, early Thursday morning for Polk County. Okay, so it's Wednesday night into Thursday that the wind's picking up. You wake up Thursday, it's going to be breezy for sure. But you can see the highest probability for those winds is over here. Now, if I show you the hurricane force probabilities, we're just not looking at a hurricane here in Tampa. We're looking at 1% chance of that. I do think this will come up for this coast right here, so we'll keep an eye on that. All right, forecast winds for the models. The GFS has been really high on this. Don't put too much into that right now, but you can see bottom line, most of these models are down here, 35 to 40 mile per hour winds with some higher gusts, maybe even a little less than that. This is for Tampa and Clearwater. Okay, so severe thunderstorm warnings have 58 mile per hour winds or higher. Okay, so we can handle this. This is the forecast wind for tomorrow. We're missing a data point right here, but bottom line, I wanted to show you west to northwest winds, and that doesn't even look right. We'll pick up tomorrow. They'll be out of the northeast tomorrow, but they'll be going 15 to 20 miles per hour tomorrow, so it is going to get a little bit on the breezy side. All right, timing. Here we go. Wind. This is the wind from the storm getting closer to us. Right now, I'm going 25 to 50, and 50 is on the high side for the Tampa area. Okay. At my house, I'm not boarding up for this. I'll let you decide. This is not one of those storms for us. It does not look like it at this point. But it's Wednesday night through Thursday evening. All right, that's the best chance for wind. During the morning on Friday, things will be getting better. Could be even sooner than that. That's the timing now, according basically to the Hurricane Center forecast. Flooding. So flooding's not a huge thing because we're only talking 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. Our rivers are actually doing pretty good here so far. So the rain will pick up Wednesday night, but it could be Thursday morning before we even start to see that. And then most of it will be out of here, but I kept the orange on here for Friday morning because I wanted to give you an idea that some of that 2 to 4 inches is going to get into the rivers, and they'll start to rise a little bit during the day on Friday and into Saturday. Tornado threat. We will have a tornado threat, especially north of wherever the center comes in. And I think I might back this up to Wednesday afternoon and then go through Thursday afternoon, and then after that it should be going down because the tornado threat is the north and east side of the center. So wherever the center is, to the north and east of that is where we'd have the best threat, and usually it's kind of a little bit further away from the center too. So it's those outer rain bands, those first kind of outer rain bands, and the trajectory that's coming in from the east coast, that would put most of that up in towards Daytona and Jacksonville and St. Augustine. Jacksonville, St. Augustine, storm surge issue for them. That's the deal. For us, we do have 2 to 3 foot here. That's a possibility. I don't think we'll end up with any evacuations, but there will be areas inside the bay like Snell Island, Old Northeast. We could see a foot of water on the streets in some of those locations just because the tides will be running high on the back side. Initially, with the northeast wind, the tides are actually going to drop. It's not going to be drastic like what we saw with Irma or with Ian where you could walk out across it, but it will be running pretty low with a 20, 30 mile per hour wind blowing offshore. On the backside, when it moves by and it goes to our north, those winds will come back around out of the west and then the southwest. That's why you see this surge is so late Thursday night into Friday morning. And again, it's kind of minimal at this particular time, so we'll keep an eye on that. All right, that's it. Let's get you back here. I do want to show you, I kind of put this frame here. The greatest threat will be Wednesday afternoon through Thursday. So I'm going to let you go. We're getting ready to do 10 Tampa Bay at 5 o'clock. I want to recap our watches and warnings. Right now, there are hurricane watches for the Bahamas. There are hurricane warnings, for the Bahamas. Hurricane watches for the coast of Florida from Miami, just north of Miami, basically, all the way up through Cape Canaveral. You know about Artemis? I mean, they got to pull it.
I haven't heard.
Okay.
I know the threshold for keeping on the pad is 85 miles per hour, but that's a close. They don't want to do that. They don't want to.
Okay, so we were wondering whether or not they're going to, because they just rolled Artemis back out for the launch, I think on the 14th?
Yeah, it was the launch is the 14th.
14th. So it's sitting out there now, but Natalie's saying that the threshold for winds is about 85 miles per hour. Like, they don't want it sitting there with 85 mile per hour winds or higher blowing on it. That's going to be really close. If I was them, I would roll it back just in case. But that's NASA. We'll let you know what they do. Bottom line for us, we've got those tropical storm watches, Sumter County, Polk County, Hardin, DeSoto, Highlands County. They will likely move west into Hernando, Pasco, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Manatee, and Sarasota later tonight. All right, probably for that 10 o'clock update tonight, just because of the timing. But overall, the highest winds will be over here where it makes landfall. As it moves across the state towards Tampa, it will gradually weaken. Those winds will come down. So that's the good news about having a storm come in on the east coast of Florida for the folks in Tampa, right? It looks like, and it looks like it'll be a weaker storm. This is not an Ian. Okay, so that's the good news. All right, guys, that's it. Let me go. We can get ready for the show here. Don't forget to follow us on all our social platforms. Natalie on hers, Grant, you got Tyler, you got Rich, you got mine as well, and of course all the 10 Tampa Bay platforms. Stay with us. We'll keep you informed, prepared, and connected all the way through this storm.